Welcome to the photographic question and answer session with me, Mark Hemmings. And let's just really dive into workflow issues. This is photographic workflow, whether it be editing or processing, just ways to help you master your photographic workflow. Okay, so the first question is from Scott. Hi, Mark. When I go out to shoot, I find myself taking multiple shots of items. The problem is that it's often weeks and sometimes months before I get back to my photos. My collection of unsorted and unprocessed photos is far outgrowing my ability to catch up. This is such a normal problem, Scott, and it affects all of us. So the first thing I suggest is to take less pictures. Now, that is a very strange thing for a photographer to say. However, it's interesting how when I look back at my career, the better I got at a certain genre of photography, the less photos I would take. Now, I'm not talking about commercial jobs when I'm working for clients. I'm talking about my own artistic photos. So, for example, maybe you like landscapes, or maybe you like nature scenes, or whatever it is. Often, because we don't feel confident about our ability to get the shot, we take a ton of pictures because we have the luxury of having digital. Now, back in the day when I was photographing with slide film, I only took one picture of each scene because it was so expensive to develop that film. So it was like $1 per picture. And I think that we should return to that. Digital is a little bit of a crutch where we just take a ton of pictures, like a machine gun amount of pictures. And yes, we'll probably get that one shot out of the 50 of that particular scene. But I would suggest you take less pictures, practice it, and really slow down, unless you're doing street photography or sports, because you can't slow down with those. But really slow down and try to take one picture of the scene, or two, or maybe three at most. And what happens is when you slow down to think about the shot and take far fewer than you normally would, you're actually going to be pushing yourself out of that comfort zone of doing a blanket shooting of like 40 or 50 pictures of the same picture because you're not 100% clear or confident that you're going to get the shot. I believe that you will get the shot, okay? Just a little bit of practice. So, step number one, take fewer pictures. Step number two is I like to use Adobe Lightroom CC, and CC is the version that has the cloud access, so the photos go up to the cloud. And I actually find that, let's say that I have 5 or 6 photos of the same scene, just a slight variation between all 5. I will usually pare that down to only my 3 favorite. Let me give you an example. Let's say there's a beautiful tree and it's being lit by morning light. And I would take 5 different ways, sort of compositions, like maybe they're all vertical, but one's a little bit to the left, one's straight on. Maybe one I add a little bit more of a sky situation. I really like to pare down to about 2 or 3, or sometimes even 1 of that particular scene. I don't like clogging my workflow with a ton of pictures. So I am a minimalist, and I strongly recommend that if you are feeling bogged down, that you minimalize your workflow by taking fewer pictures, and then even picking the best 3 or maybe even 4 of that particular scene and keeping those in your archives. Okay? I hope that helps. Thank you, Scott. Okay, the next question. By the way, if you're wondering where these questions have come from, at markhemmings.com, I have a sign up, and you can just click it, and you have access to free content that is not put onto Facebook. Okay, so if you're interested in these little offers that I give to the people who are on my page, please go to markhemmings.com, click on the link. It's called, I think, Mark's Free Photography Lessons or something like that. And every month, and actually almost every week, I'm offering some freebie to help you guys. Okay, so this is from Nouf, and I apologize if that's not how you pronounce your name. Okay, hello, Mr. Mark. I'm a beginner. I already started editing with Photoshop. My question or request is to help me to shortcut my learning. I'm working on studying Photoshop editing from some YouTube channels, but it's slow and I'm really suspicious about their skills. Okay, great question. Now, what I suggest, Nauf, is that you go to udemy.com. That's www.udemy.com. Now, it's true that on YouTube you can get any training for free, but the problem is that everything is scattered. Like you would have one piece of the puzzle here, and then another photographer is teaching another piece of the puzzle for Photoshop or whatever you want to learn over here. And it's very hard to get a cohesive strategy to learn software like Photoshop or Lightroom or whatever. However, udemy.com is, and there's also, of course, many different platforms for teaching, like Lynda, of course. I personally use Udemy, and I like Udemy. Every month, they offer a super sale where it's only sometimes $13 for an entire course. So check out Photoshop training in udemy.com, and I guarantee you, you will have great success because the courses are logically ordered. There's introduction, there's the beginning parts of learning Photoshop, there's the intermediate and advanced, all in one course possibly. And all you have to do, if you don't know which course to take, look at the star ratings, just look at the reviews. And I'm sure that you will get excellent training on Photoshop on udemy.com. And just a plug for me, I do have a Udemy course, and it's all about how to take horizontal videos and repurpose them and sort of transition them to vertical for IGTV and Instagram and Facebook vertical videos. Okay, next question. This is from Carrie. Thank you, Carrie. Mark, what is the best way to remove unwanted shadows from images? I drive the back roads of America shooting pictures of old cars and trucks when the sun is not at a favorable location in the sky, causing unwanted shadows. I've seen videos of creating layers to remove these shadows, but I have not mastered that skill yet. I have Lightroom, Photoshop, and Aurora HDR 2019 software for editing. Oh, I love this question. Thank you, Carrie. So what I do is, and by the way, if you have a tripod, this process will be easier and more accurate. However, if you don't have a tripod, it's still doable, okay? If you take 3 pictures, I'm assuming, Carrie, that you actually are using a DSLR or a mirrorless. If you are not, if you're using like an iPhone or an Android, well, all you have to do is do the HDR option, okay? So there's a little HDR option on all mobile device cameras. And that will probably help you with those shadow areas. Okay, further, if you're just using an iPhone or an Android, I suggest going to Lightroom CC mobile app for Android and iOS and downloading it and switching the camera to RAW capture. Okay, that'll help immensely with those shadow areas. Okay? Now, let's say that you are using a DSLR or a mirrorless. What I'd like you to do is take 3 pictures of the same scene at different exposures. And you can do that through your camera, and it's called exposure bracketing. Now, because I don't know what camera you're using, and I don't know what brand, I can't really tell you how to activate exposure bracketing. However, it's very simple. Just go to YouTube, type in the model name of your camera and the words exposure bracketing. What this will do is it'll give you 3 different exposures of the same picture. For example, the really cool rusty old truck in bad sunlight with deep shadows. And then if you take those 3 photos and then load them into Lightroom CC or Photoshop or a lot of other different editing programs, all you need to do is combine those 3 in their combination process. For example, Lightroom CC, you just tap on the 3 images and you're going to combine them. In Photoshop, you can combine these 3 images. If you have any problems, like for example, I don't even know what software you're using. Let me see. Oh yes, you do. You use Lightroom, I'm sorry. So I suggest Lightroom CC. Get all 3 images And then if you right click those three images, you can actually blend them into a really good HDR image. HDR simply means high dynamic range, where the shadows and the highlights and the midtones will even out because of the amazing brilliance of the software. And then you'll have a great shot where your highlights and your shadows are perfectly exposed, usually. Okay, I hope that helps. And actually, that ends our little section on workflow questions. Now, these three people sent in their questions because they're part of my email list from markhemmings.com. But I have many more. A lot of you sent in questions. Okay, so don't worry, your video is coming up next. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this little instruction on workflow. Okay, have a great day.